So this is the project which we'll be making, and if I refresh it, you'll see that the text comes in from bottom, and if you scroll it, the animation happens and it skews in the Y direction. We'll see what that is. And if you scroll down, you'll see the text coming in from right and the image also coming in. And if you scroll more, it will be zoomed in. And we have this view more also. Okay. Hello everyone and welcome to today's session, and in this session we'll be using GSAP scroll trigger plugin to make an awesome looking website, and I'll show you what we'll be making. So let me just share my screen. Okay, so I hope my screen is visible. Just confirm to me once if it's visible or not once again. Okay, so this is the project which we'll be making, and if I refresh it, you'll see that the text comes in from bottom, and if you scroll it, the animation happens and it skews in the Y direction. We'll see what that is. And if you scroll down, you'll see the text coming in from right and the image also coming in. And if you scroll more, it will be zoomed in, and we have this view more also. Okay, so we'll start making this, and right now I have an empty folder here, just an index.html, and I'll open it up in our VS Code. So I made this thing here, and what I'm gonna do is I'll just give this link to you guys as well so you can follow along. How many of you guys are following along in this session with me? Okay, Akar has a thumbs up. Okay, what about others? Okay, so let's begin this session, and I have an empty folder here and I only have this index.html here. So you guys also go ahead, create this file, and I'll make this side by side. Okay, so I have empty folder, empty file here, index.html. I'll hold shift and 1 to get this boilerplate of HTML, and then I'll name it GSAP scroll trigger and save this. And I'll be using an extension which is called live server. So you can get that extension in VS Code while you can go in this extensions tab, search for live server, and you'll get this extension here by Ritwik Day. You can install this, and when you go back here, you'll see, if you right click, you can see this option, open with live server. So what that thing does is basically you don't have to again and again reload this website web page whenever you make any changes. Okay, so we have it here, and let's just check if everything works fine. I'll save it. You'll see hello here, so it works fine. So we'll begin this thing, and right now what I have here is a big text or heading, then we have a paragraph, small subheading, and a paragraph. And if we go down, you'll see one more heading and an image. So first we'll just make the HTML part, and then we'll style it up. Okay, so let's start with the HTML. I have here this scroll. Okay, I have a section here, so I'll call this section hero. So inside this hero section, I have a div which is called hero text, and inside this hero text I'll be adding the heading, so h1, and I named it GSAP scroll trigger, and then I have a line break. So in the next line I called it to the rescue. Save. Yeah, I have it here, and then I have a paragraph also. So inside this only we have a paragraph after h1 p, and the thing which I wrote is by creating, I mean you can add anything, so let's just add lorem and 10. So this is dummy text, and you can use this in VS Code. Just type in lorem and then the number of words which you want, and you'll get this thing from using VS Code. Okay, so we have a paragraph here, and then we have one more paragraph, so this thing here. So After hero text, I have another div, and it's inside the hero text only. So this one is here, div dot bottom text, and once again inside this you can add a paragraph, and let's say lorem 20 tab. Save it, and you'll see we have the text here. Okay, I hope everyone's got till here, and this is one div. Okay, and we have this here. So this section is completed, and then what we want to do is we want to have another section. So in that section we have this heading and this image and this button also. So I'll create one more section after this one. So in that section I'll call it section dot projects, and inside this once again I have this heading. So heading, I gave it a class of heading, and you can write that project here. So we have the heading, and then we have image. So I used Unsplash for the image. You can use any image you want. So go on Unsplash, and I searched for landscape. This image, let's just use this image. I'll copy this image address. I'll give this image address to you guys as well. So paste it. You can use this address. You can use this image in your own websites. So I have heading here, and then I have a div which is called image, and inside this div I have the image, and in the source I have that link here. If I save it, you'll see that I now have this image here. Okay, and then one more thing which we have is that circle. So this circle, it's not responsive, but you can make it responsive if you want. And after this image we have the circle, so I just called it div.circle, and inside this we'll just write view more. Save it, and now we have the HTML completed. So we have the first section, and then we have a hero text in which we have our heading and then our paragraph, and then we have one more div which is the bottom text, and inside that div we have a paragraph, and then this section which is called projects, and we have heading, image, and this circle which we'll be making in CSS. So we have completed the HTML part, and now we'll move on to our CSS part. So I'll create a file which is called style.css, and I'll link this file as well. So link, and then href, I'll write style.css, and just the boilerplate CSS code which will remove all the default styling. So star, and then these curly brackets, and then I'll just write margin is 0, padding is 0, and box sizing is border box. Save it, and now you'll see that all the default stylings which the browser applies to your web page are removed. So the margin and everything is removed. The next thing which we'll be doing is we'll just create a few of the variables for background color. So for that we'll just use colon and then root, and inside this we'll call our background black color to --bg black, and then I'll just copy this thing here. So the color is 1b 1b 1b, a shade of black. So this is the background black color, and we'll be using not pure white, we have one shade of white, so f8 f8 f8, and we'll also we only want these two things, so I'll just give this to you guys as well in the chat box. So these are the two variables which we'll be using, and now what I'm going to do is I'll start by styling the heading first. So I'll just write h1. So all the h1 in the file we have 2, because this heading and this that project, they both have the same styling. So I'll select the h1 here, and I'll give a font size of 100 pixels. Save. I'll make it big so you guys can see it. I'll zoom in a bit also in this one. Yeah, so font size is 100 pixels, and the color is white, so variable -- white. Okay, so right now we have white background, we have to add color black in the body as well, so we'll do that in a bit. and we'll also make it a bit bold, so font weight is bold. Okay, and I'll just go up here and type in body, and inside body I'm using a font which is called Lisarnik, and you can search it up, you can install that font. It's not available on Google Fonts, but you can use any font which you want. So let's just use which font should we use? uh, let's just use Montserrat. You can go here and select the font styles which you want. So I just select regular one, medium, and bold. So I'll import this thing here. Okay, this link here, and I'll go back to my style.css, and above everything I'll paste that import, and inside body I'll give the font family as Montserrat and comma sans serif. Save, and I'll also add the background color as well, so we can see the font, we can see the heading. So background is variable dash dash black. Save it, and now you'll see that you can see the headings and everything. Okay, so the next thing which we'll be doing is we have heading, we have we'll give these sections. So we added two sections here, right? So one section is this GSAP scroll trigger to the rescue, and then the other section is the project section. So we'll add a height of 100 VH to both the sections. So I'll select section, give it a height of 100 VH, save it, and then what I'm going to do is add a bit of padding. So top bottom is 150 pixels, and left and right you can add also 150 pixels. So now everything's aligned nicely. And the next thing which I'm going to do is I'll go here, I have section here, and inside this I have hero text, h1 is done. I have to select style the paragraph and bottom text now. So the next thing which I'm going to do is I'll select hero text, and then I'll inside hero text I'll select the paragraph, so P, and then inside this I'll add a bit of padding of top bottom 30 pixels and left right is 0 pixels. Then font size is 20 pixels. Font weight is again bold. Then color is white. Then we have what else do we want? If I save it, you will see, okay, we have to okay, we selected both the paragraphs, so okay, let's see what's wrong. Hero text and P. Okay, so we'll change the style of this once we complete this thing here. So we have to add a bit of line breaks here as well. So we can either reduce the text from this thing. So let's just reduce the text, save it, and now it looks good. And we'll also reduce this to 700. Okay, 700 is bold. 500. Okay, now it looks better. Then the next thing which I'm going to do is style this bottom paragraph. Okay, so dot hero text, then inside that we have the bottom text, and then we have the paragraph, and font size is 14 pixels, font weight is 500, and the color is 838383. Save. Okay, now this looks different than the first one. And then what I'm gonna do is I'll just add a BRs here. So BR BR line. I'll add line breaks here, and one more here. Okay, we can just remove this line break here. Okay, so this is now everything, everything which you need in this section. Then the next thing which I'm gonna do is style this thing here. So I'll go down, then we gave that heading a class of heading only. So I'll just make it uppercase. So heading is text transform uppercase, save. We have this uppercase. Now we'll style the image. So inside the section or just image, and we'll give this image position of absolute, and left is 0, and we also will be adding overflow hidden, and I'll tell you why we have added this overflow hidden later on when we are making when we are adding the JavaScript files. And yeah, okay, so this is done. Then what I'm gonna do is projects, and we have to make the circle now. So after this image, we'll create the circle. So dot circle, and color is white, font weight is bold. Okay, let's see where it is. Okay, because it's position absolute, we can't see it, so I'll just add the index of -3. Okay, yeah, here it is. View more. Okay, so font weight is bold. Then we'll add a bit width of 150 pixels, height of 150 pixels, and then I'll add border radius of 50%, and we also have to add the border. So border is 2 pixels, solid and white. Save, and you'll see we have this circle here. And now to make everything centered, we can use this display grid and place items center. So this view more will be nicely aligned in the center. So I hope everyone is following till here. And how many of you guys have completed till here? Let's see. Okay, Akash says done. What about others? Have you guys completed till here? Are you guys following along? Okay, let's move forward then. So we have to position this absolutely, and we have to make it here, we have to place it here. So we'll be using position absolute here. So I'll give it position absolute, and then the top is 70% and the right is 30%. Save, and you'll see, okay, something is wrong. Let's see. Top 70%. Okay, if I add 0%, it's here. Okay. Section dot. Okay, we have to add position relative to this section also. I forgot to add that. So I'll just select the projects, and then I'll add position relative. Save it, and now you'll see, now it works fine. So we have top 70%, we can make it 80. Okay, and then we'll make it rotate. Okay, so for that we'll be using keyframes, CSS keyframes. So I'll just for keyframes, you can just write keyframes. So keyframes, then you have to name the animation. So I'll just name it rotate, and then here we'll add the points of keyframes, so initial and final. So when the animation starts, so 0%, transform, and then rotate to 0 degree, and then when 50%, we will make it 180 degree, and 360 and 100%, it will be rotated 360 degree. So I'll copy this, paste it here, 180 degree, and then I'll add 100%, and once again I'll copy this and I'll just write 360 degree. Save it. Now you'll see it is not rotating because we have to add the animation in the circle here also. So we'll just go here, type in animation and animation name. So we named it rotate, and it will be rotating infinite times. The time will be 5 seconds and the animation style will be linear. Save it, and now you'll see that it's now rotates. one more thing which we can add here is we can add cursor pointer, save it, so now it looks like a button. Okay, so now this works fine, and I think that we're completed with the CSS portion. We just have to add JavaScript or GSAP. I hope everyone who is following along has completed till here. Just let me know in the chat box if you guys have completed it, so that we can move forward. We can also increase the font, so let's say font size is 20 pixels, save it. Okay, Akar says got it, great. What about others? Okay, so let's move on with JavaScript. So we have to add this these links of GSAP and scrolltrigger. So we can go on Google, search for GSAP CDN. So the first link which you get of CDN.js, you can go on this link. We need the GSAP CDN, and we also need the scroll trigger. So first we'll copy this script tag, copy it, and then we'll just, before the body ends in our index.html, we'll paste it here. So we have this thing here. I'll give this link to you guys as well. So this is the first link. Then we have to add scroll trigger. So this scroll trigger link, copy it. Okay, here, and just after, so you have to add scroll trigger after you've added the GSAP link. So here we have added GSAP, and then we have added the scroll trigger, and then we'll create our own script file. So let's just name it app.js, and we'll go, and after we've added the GSAP and scroll trigger, we'll link our own file as well. So script source is app.js, save it. So we have GSAP in loaded up in our HTML in our project. So let's just check if everything works. So I'll just console log hello, save, and right click, inspect, and not sources, we have to go to console. Okay, so now everything works fine. So we can move on and start working with GSAP. So first thing which you see when you reload it, you'll see that the animation of this the whole text comes in from the bottom. Okay, so what we're gonna do is first we'll just select all the files. Okay, so we have this hero section here. So we will make it animate from the bottom. Okay, so in GSAP you have 2-3 things. So one is gsap.from, one is gsap.to. So I'll explain you what happens. So first we have to initialize the GSAP function. So for that we just have to write gsap, so then gsap.from. So .from means we have to animate from this position which we will define, and this will animate to the final position. So this position which we have right now, so the initial position which we set using CSS, will be animating to that position. So when we're using .from, we have to define from where we are beginning the animation. So gsap.from, and then these parentheses, and then we have to specify or select the element which we want to animate. So inside these codes I'll just write .hero. So we have to select from the class hero. So it is just like document.query selector, and then you write whatever element which you're selecting. So just like that, if you're using an ID, you can add hash, and if you are just animating using image, or you just selecting image, so you can just write image. So we are using this, we are animating this whole hero section. So I'll just write .hero, and then I'll just put a comma, and then I'll open up the curly brackets. So here we have access to all the CSS properties. So just like we write everything here, so all the transform, positions, and scaling and everything, we have access to all the properties in these curly brackets. So here first thing which I'm going to do is write the Y position. So it will be animating from the bottom. So I'll define the Y position to be somewhere around 300 pixels. So for that I'll just write Y, and then colon, and in the quotes I'll just write 300 pixels. Then I'll put up a comma, and then I'll add opacity 0. So initially the opacity is 0, Y position is 300 pixel, and the duration of the animation will be 1 second. If I save it, you'll see that the animation happens. I hope you guys saw it. If I reload it once again, you'll see that the text comes in from bottom. Okay, so this comes in to the top. I hope you guys saw it, and if you guys are coding alongside with me, I hope you guys also got it. So just let me know in the chat box if everyone got it. Yep, Akar says yes. Okay. So what we are doing here also is, if I reload it, you'll see that it's kind of bent, है? So we'll just add a property which is called skew. So when you're using CSS, you have this property in transform. So if I just show you transform, and then यहाँ पे you have skew. Okay, so skew Y. So we'll be using only skew Y, so you don't have to write the whole transform and everything. You just have to write skew Y. So I'll just use skew, SKEW, skew Y to 5 degree. And now if I save it, you'll see that it comes from the bottom, right? Okay, so we have it here, and we can just reduce it to 250 pixels. Okay, so we have the first animation here, and it's running. The next thing which we need to do is we have to add the scroll trigger now. So for scroll trigger, we have to define first we have to define the timeline. So basically what timeline is you have to connect all the animations one by one. So let's say you want the animation, so first this heading comes in, then this paragraph comes in, then this paragraph comes in. So right now what's happening is everything is coming everything comes at once. Okay, it's not staggered, so it's not coming one by one. So we have to create a timeline. So timeline is an object which GSAP provides you with, so you don't have to worry about linking everything. It just does it on its own. So you just have to create a timeline, and then you have to add all the elements or all the animations. So we will create a timeline here. So I'll just write const TL. You can name it anything. I'll just name it TL. So const TL is equals to gsap.timeline, and then invoke it, and inside this timeline we have to add curly brackets. Okay, so curly brackets, and inside these curly brackets we have to write scroll trigger, and the T is capital, so make sure you spell it correctly, because if you don't, it will not work. So scroll trigger, then colon, and then once again we have to add the curly brackets. So gsap.timeline, and then the normal parenthesis, and then curly brackets, and then we have to write once again scroll trigger, and then colon, and scroll these curly brackets once again. So here we have if you go on and search for GSAP cheat sheet, you will see all the options which you get while using the GSAP's timeline. Okay, if you go down, and the scroll trigger, so you have trigger, start, end, scrub, pin, marker, and all these things which you have access to while using the scroll trigger. Okay, so we'll not be using everything. The things which we'll be using is the first thing which we'll be using is the trigger. So trigger basically means when should the animation trigger. Okay, so when should the animation start. So for trigger, first we'll just use hero, because we have to animate the hero section. Okay, so trigger, and here we'll just write .hero. So the trigger is set to be hero. Then we want our markers. So what are markers? I'll just show you. If I go and type in markers true, save it, you'll see I have this start, scroller, end, and then end and scroller start. So I have 4 things here. So 2 green and 2 red. So start and scroller start, end and scroller end. So these are the trigger points. So if you go here and see start, so top center, so these are 2 values. So this is the trigger position and this is the scroller position. So what do I mean by both of these things? So if I go and write start, So when I want to what positions I want my animations to begin. So since we have added the trigger to be hero, so this is the hero section, okay, and then we have to add the start of the animation. So when the scroller start and the start lines up, then the animation begins, and when the scroller end lines up, then the animation ends. So we have to specify the values. So you can get the values by trial and error method. So I have it here. So I'll just write to 125 pixels and 150 pixels. If I save it, you'll see start is somewhere here and the scroller start is here. So when I go and when I reach this point where scroller start and start, both of these align together, that's where the animation begins. And then we go down, and when the end and scroller end meets, that's where the animation ends. So we have defined the start position, then we also have to define the end position. So end positions are bottom. So once again I have calculated it and put it here. So bottom and 500 pixels. So you can also add it by your own trial and error method. So start is here, and so animation starts here and then it goes on till the end. Both of these end bars are matched. Okay, so we have made the timeline here, and one more thing which we'll be adding is scrub true. So you'll see what happens when you add what scrub true means. Okay, so we have created the timeline here, and now we have to link everything to the timeline. So we'll just use TL. So select the timeline, then 2. So just like we added from here, so we wanted animation from a point to this point. Okay, so this position which we defined using CSS. So what we need to do is we have this setup here and we want to make it when we scroll, it skews down and its opacity also reduces and it goes up a bit also. Okay, so we will be using TL.2. So we'll select the things which we want. So inside hero text we have the H1, and we also need hero text paragraph. So these are all CSS will be classes, and it's written here hero text H1 and hero text P. So we've selected both of these things, and now what I'm going to do is put a comma here and then curly brackets, and here we have to write skew y. Skew y is 3 degree y. We are moving it up a bit, so minus 60 pixels. Then we have to add the duration. So duration of animation is 1 second and the opacity is down to 0. Save it, and now you'll see what happens is this comes in. Now if I scroll down, you'll see the animation starts here and it goes up, and also the opacity reduces to 0. So because we don't have much space up here, so that's why you can't see it, but I hope you guys also got it. So just let me know in the chat box if you also got it, and then I'll move forward and then we'll animate this section as well. I know it looks a bit complex, but with practice you can get it, and you can always refer to this cheat sheet. So I'll give the link of this cheat sheet as well, so you can go back and refer to this cheat sheet whenever you forget. Okay, Akar says done. Great. So the first animation is completed. Okay, so what scrub means is basically if I remove scrub, what will happen is once we've animated it, so opacity is 0. So now it's removed, it's gone. So we have to, whenever we go up, we want animation to go on once again. So that's why we have added scrub, so it responds to our scroller. So if I go down, it disappears, and if I go up, it again appears. So that's what scrub does. And now we'll move on to the next section, so this thing. So for that we'll create one more timeline. So we created the first timeline, which was this, and now we can remove the markers from here. So now the handles are not shown. Next we'll move on to this portion, that project, the project one. We'll create one more timeline, and then I'll just name it TL title. And once again same thing, GSAP.timeline, open parentheses, curly brackets, define the scroll trigger, So scroll trigger colon, and then once again these curly brackets. Once again we have to add the first thing which we have to add is trigger. So the trigger here will be project. So when we reach the project section, so this section we reach, that's where the animation should begin. Okay, so trigger will be dot projects. So we have trigger set up, then we want our markers so that we can set up everything. Markers true, save it. So you'll see that the markers are added, and the start is where the section starts and end where it ends. So we have added that. Now we have to define the start and end positions. So I'll just write start. The start position of title 1 is -100 pixels, and the scroller will be 150 pixels. So we want our animations to start -100 pixels, so above 100 pixels above the portion, so this section. And so when we reach here, animations should start, and the end positions are 700 pixels and 500 pixels. Save it, and now you'll see that animation starts here. It goes on, and since we don't have much space in the bottom, that's why it ends here. So for that, what we can do is we can just create an empty section. So just after this section, we can just create an empty section, and we'll not put up anything. But since we've added height of 100 VH to each section, so that's why we have some more space, so around 100 VH of space in the empty section also. So it allows us to scroll down so that animation is completed. So we've animated this part here. This goes up, and now we have to animate this. So we have to link everything to our second timeline, so the title timeline. So now let's do that. So I'll just write TL title dot from. So where I am using from because I want the animation to come from right side. You'll see that it comes from the right side. So we will be defining the initial position. So TL dot from, then we have to select dot projects h1. So we select this heading, comma, curly brackets, and initially the opacity is 0, and we want it to go to any Y positions. Opacity 0, and Y position is 100 pixels, and X position is 600 pixels. So it looks like it comes from down, and yeah, that's how it looks. And we also have to add scrub true as well. Scrub is save. Okay, so this is done, and now I'll do one thing is after title is done, we have to animate our image also. So for that, I'll just create one more timeline for image. Okay, because if we link everything to this, we cannot add the scale animation which we added in this image. Okay, so I'll create one more animation. So I hope everyone has done till here. Just type in done or yes, so that I can move forward. Okay, that's great. So I have TL title from, and now we'll create the image. So TLIMG equals to GSAP.timeline, and then inside this I'll create the scroll trigger, and the scroll trigger will be once again projects only. Trigger will be projects. We want our markers true. The start position will be 50 pixels and 150 pixels, and end positions will be 1100 pixels and 500 pixels, and scrub is also true. So this is the timeline for image, and now we have to link the timeline of image as well. So for that, I'll just write tlimg dot from to. So here I am just using from to function from GSAP. So it from to allows you to add a from position and to a position. So initial and final position, both of the positions you can define. So I'll just select the .img thing, and in the first curly brackets I'll add the from position. So from opacity of 0, opacity 0, and y is 100 pixels, so 100 pixels down, and skew y is 5 degrees. So this is the from position. I'll add comma just after this curly bracket ends. I'll add one more curly bracket, then I'll add opacity is 1, opacity 1, then I'll add y position to move up 80 pixels, and then skew y is 0 degree. I have to add it in curly quotes. Save it, and now you'll see that if I go down, it moves up. Title comes in, and after that this image also shows up, and it ends here. So now I also have to add that thing as well. So it scales up just like here. So after you scroll, it scales up a bit. So for that, I'll just add this scaling. So just after the animation, this animation is ended, I'll just add dot 2. So after this animation is done, then dot 2, select the image. So inside img we have image here, so I'll select it using the tag img and just add a scale of 1.2. Save, and now you'll see what happens. If I go down, it disappears, the text comes in, then it goes down and it scales. So here we have added over scroll hidden in this thing, in this section, because we want our animation, if I just remove it, you'll see what happens. If I remove the overflow hidden, you'll see that everything expands. So we don't want our whole image to expand, we just want our image which is inside this image container to expand, and it should not go up, right? So it should not increase its width and height. So that's why we've added overflow hidden, so it does not overflows from that container. So that's how you get this effect. And now we can just we have to add overflow x hidden to whole body, because we have text here which is whose opacity is 0. So I'll just go up here in the body and I'll add overflow of x to hidden. Save it, and I'll also remove the markers. So markers, and this also. Save it, and yeah, we have our animation completed. So it rotates here, everything works fine. So you can add much more things in this animation by yourself. You can go on GSAP and search for more things, and I hope you guys followed it. Just type in yes or no. If you guys have any doubt, you can ask them. And yeah, that's it for today's session. Thank you everyone for joining. Yeah, let me show you once again. Thank you guys for joining. I hope you guys like the session, and if you guys have any doubt regarding this session, you can ask that doubt in our community and tag us, and we'll definitely solve that doubt.